Hey guys, I'm Eugenio from Cooking with Calzones, and today we're going to make probably one of my favorite condiments that I picked up from my time in Chicago, and that's Giardiniera. Any Chicago native will tell you that Giardiniera is probably the best pickled condiment you could put on literally anything. In Chicago, it's traditionally put on what's known as Italian beef, which is a beautiful braised beef sandwich served with its own juices. And this Giardiniera provides like a really nice pickly, spicy, crunchy element to a very unctuous sandwich. Now, it's not really just reserved for that sandwich per se. You can put it on any type of sandwich you make. You can put it on I've used it in a soup before. All it is a bunch of vegetables cut up, salted, and then pickled. You can even have it hot or mild. Cater it to really whatever your tastes are. And the beauty of Giardiniera is that there's no real wrong way to go here. I think a traditional Chicagoan will tell you that there's a real wrong and a real right, but that's not really how we make things here at Cooking with Calzones. So I'm just going to give you my recipe for Giardiniera, but I think it's something that you guys can kind of take anywhere you want with any seasonal vegetable you get your hands on, and it'll still be delicious. So I'm going to start with the foundation of any Giardiniera, which is one head of cauliflower. Cauliflower is probably the only non-negotiable vegetable I would say has to be in Giardiniera. It's the staple. It is the staple vegetable of Giardiniera. And all you're going to do to this cauliflower, guys, is you're going to obviously take the stems out. And unfortunately, there's no real way to go about cutting up cauliflower without it going everywhere. So good luck, guys. But what I tend to do with my cauliflower is I take the base off, put this aside because I don't want it. I'll cut it in half first, and then I'll take out the core. Because we don't really want the core. Even though we're pickling, it's not necessarily the best part of the cauliflower. So all you're going to do to take the core out is you're going to take the blade of your knife, hold it pretty steady in your hand, and you're just going to cut right where the florets meet the core. And this is just a quick and easy way to remove probably the only inedible part of the cauliflower, honestly. So we're going to do that for one side. We're going to do that for the other side. I'd say for the Giardiniera, you want pretty small pieces though, because remember, this is a condiment for a sandwich. So just make sure that you're cutting everything into like really, really small bite-sized pieces. So I would probably tend to cut it something along the lines of like this. So it's pretty small, bite-sized pieces for your sandwich. And you're just going to put everything in a bowl. All the vegetables we're going to cut up today are going to be in a bowl. And we're making what we call here on the show some choppy choppy. Somehow somebody on the show decided to coin the phrase choppy choppy for when I was doing knife work, and it kind of caught on, so that's what we're going to be going with. Just going to be splitting all these up, and you're going to use the whole head because cauliflower, you definitely want the cauliflower to be the predominant vegetable in your Giardiniera. And like all these little bits at the end, we're going to scrape them in too. So don't worry about the fact that you're leaving little bits behind. And you can make them, if you want some chunky Giardiniera, you can make them a little bigger. If you want really, really fine chopped Giardiniera, you can make them a little smaller. It's kind of up to you and how you like your vegetables. So don't necessarily feel the need to be married to what I'm doing right here, right now. Giardiniera is also a great way to, practice some knife skills. If you guys have a food processor and you're making a lot of it at once, you can totally use a food processor to do this too. You don't necessarily have to do it by hand. And I'm sort of cutting it up haphazardly, so I'm not even really paying attention to making like perfect little shapes. I am okay with asymmetry. Don't really worry about it. Just sort of cut it up into little bite-sized bits. And I'm just going to take my cauliflower, place it right in the bowl. Second thing we're going to be doing is 2 carrots. And again, you're going to cut the carrots sort of in the same fashion that you did your cauliflower. So kind of around the same size, because whenever you pickle something, you want to make sure that it gets pickled completely and all the way through. So as long as your vegetables are consistent with each other in terms of size, then you're going to get a nice even pickle. So for these carrots, I'm not even really going to peel them. As long as you wash your carrots pretty thoroughly on the outside, you don't necessarily have to peel the carrot. I know that a lot of people like to peel their carrots, but I kind of am a firm believer in the fact that if they were created with a skin on, then they're probably meant to be eaten with a skin on as well. So I'm just going to split these carrots in half all the way down the center. And then I'm going to split them into quarters. And that's all we're going to do. And then we're just going to slice them up. And once we split them up into quarters, we can just line them up right next to each other and go right down the line, making little carrot triangles. Once again, we've got our trusty bowl scraper here, guys, and we're just going to scoop straight into the bowl. Next thing we're going to use is 3 stalks of celery. Same thing with the celery. I'm literally going to cut it straight down the center of the rib. And that's all we're going to do. Then we're just going to slice it up into bite-sized chunks. You guys are getting your fill of choppy choppy in this one. So you can line up all your celery and kind of use your knife as the sort of starting point. You're going to go straight down the celery. Might need to pause to regroup a little bit. That's totally okay. I like my Giardiniera pretty spicy. Like, to me, it's always been a spicy condiment. I know a lot of people like it mild. I'm a spicy guy all the way through. So the next thing we're going to throw in here are a couple Serrano chilies. I'm going to go with 3 Serrano chilies, guys. And for the Serranos, we're going to do nothing but cut them straight down into rings. So I'm going to take my 3 Serranos, and I'm just going to cut rings out of them. This is probably the only part, if you're using a food processor, this is probably the only part I would advise not to do in a food processor. Because you're going to want those thin little Serrano rings in your Giardiniera. And again, you can adjust this to however you want. If you want it a little spicy, you can add less Serranos. If you don't want it spicy, you can add some red and green bell peppers if you like that sweet pepper flavor. There's so many directions you can go with this. This is just how I like to make it. Next we're going to add, guys, is a few cloves of raw garlic. This is probably one of the few cases I'm going to use raw garlic. Let's say 17 cloves of garlic, and you can either mince the garlic or slice it. I like sliced for this because I like to see the pieces of garlic that I'm pickling. So I'm just going to slice this garlic up fairly quickly. Once all these veggies are cut up, the hard part of Giardiniera is pretty much done, which is also really, really cool, guys. So a lot of this is just a bit of front load prep, but this will probably make enough Giardiniera to last you a very, very, very long time. Now we have the base for our Giardiniera. We've got our cauliflower, our carrots, our serranos, our celery, and our garlic. All I'm going to do is mix them all up so that everything is sort of well incorporated with one another. We are going to salt the vegetables very liberally. After which we're going to soak them in water overnight for about 12 to 24 hours. And what the salt's going to do is going to extract the maximum amount of moisture from these vegetables and allow them to be preserved in the pickling liquid. So we're just going to season fairly liberally with salt. I'd say probably about 3 to 4 tablespoons for these amount of vegetables. And then right back to mixing. And I'm going to add about 4 cups of water to this. Just going to lightly cover the bowl in plastic wrap. This is going to sit in the fridge for, like I said, about 12 to 24 hours. All you guys are going to do is scoop the vegetables into a resealable container. And you're going to want to leave a little bit of room at the top so that the vegetables can move around. And Here's my kicker of an ingredient. You're gonna add about 2 tablespoons of dried Italian seasoning, 1 Calabrian chili. You're gonna top it off with distilled white vinegar. Just so everything is submerged. And last but not least, a little squirt of olive oil, probably about 2 tablespoons. Put a lid on it, give it a little shake, just to make sure that everything is sort of well incorporated. And I would let this sit in your fridge for about 2 to 3 days before you put it on anything. And that's just to ensure that the vegetables are thoroughly pickled all the way through. After that, you're good to go. Throw it on a sandwich, put it into a soup. Heck, I'd even put it in a salad. Really, it is such an all-encompassing condiment that I really firmly believe that no kitchen should be without it. So thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the content, please don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and hit the alert bell just so you know when we put out a new video. I'll see you in the next one.